Hello everyone, in this video we're going to go over how to fill out the postgraduate work permit application, which is this application here. If you need help to fill and submit the postgraduate application, I have already made a video about the step-by-step on how to fill and submit the postgraduate work permit application, and I have included the link for that video in the bio. Feel free to check that out. Again, it goes into all the details. It covers all the steps that you must do in order for you to apply for your postgraduate work permit. If you don't know how to submit the application, if you don't know what documents you need, and if you don't know how to fill out the application or anything else about the application, I highly recommend you to watch that video. In this video, we're just going to go over how to fill out this application. We're not going to talk about how to submit the application. So after you downloaded and opened the form, this is the form that you must fill out. Make sure you're filling out the right form. If you have the right form, then we can just start filling out this application. So again, this is the application to change condition, extend my stay or remain in Canada. You got to make sure you're filling out the right form. So for the first question, it's asking for your UCI. You're just going to type your UCI. You can find this on your student visa. Then you're going to choose if you want the service to be in English or French. We're going to say in English. Then you have to choose what you're applying for, which is going to be this one, apply for work permit for the first time with a new employer. After you can just move on to the next section, which is personal details. This is asking for your full name, and it must be as it's shown on your passport, so it must be all in capital. We're just going to say Ross. For the given name, we're just going to say music. Then it's asking if you've ever used any other name. If not, then you click on no. If yes, and as you can see, when you click on no, it will black out these sections, so you don't have to fill them out. It doesn't. You don't have to fill them out. It will let you know that you don't need to fill them out. But if you say yes, it's gonna ask you to start filling these sections. We're just gonna say no, and then you have to choose your gender. We're just going to say female. The date of birth, we're going to say 1997, 08, 10. Then it's asking for the place of birth. We're going to say Istanbul, and then the country of birth, we're going to say Turkey. Let me just find here. Then for the citizenship, you just have to choose the citizenship of the country you were born in, which is going to be Turkey in this case. Then you can move to section 7. It's asking for your current country or territory of your residence. It's going to be Canada. The status, you are still a student, so you're going to pick a student. So for the dates, for the from date, it's going to be the date that you first arrived in Canada. So this is going to be the first date that you arrived in Canada. So if you arrived in Canada in 2020, the first date that you entered Canada, this is going to be the date that you must include it here. We're going to say it was 2020, 08/15. And for the to date, it must be the date that your student visa expires. So the date on your student visa, there's an expiry date on your student visa. That's the date you must include it here. Again, the from date is the date you first entered Canada, and the to date is the expiry date on your student visa. So if the study expiry date on your student visa is 2024 08 31st, you want to make sure you include that here. Again, this is the date of expiry of your student visa. This date is the date of expiry on your student visa. Then you can just move on to the next question. It's asking for it's asking if during the last 5 years you have lived in any country or territory other than Canada or your country of citizenship for more than 6 months. So the country of citizenship in our case is Turkey. We said it's Turkey. So if it's asking if you during the past 5 years you lived in other countries other than Canada and in our case Turkey for more than 6 months. So if you haven't lived in any other country other than Canada and your country of citizenship for more than 6 months, you just click no. And if you have, let's say that you have lived in United States for more than 6 months, then you just click yes and you start filling out these sections. You let them know which country it was, the status that you had, like if you were like visitor visa, you were visiting United States on visitor visa, then you just want to let them know that you had visitor status, and then you have to include the dates. But again, if you were not in any other country other than Canada and your country of citizenship for more than 6 months, you just say no. And as you can see, then you don't have to answer any of these parts. You can just move on to the next section, which is marital status. We're gonna say we're single. If you say you're married, then you have to answer these sections, section B and section C. But section C is here. But if you say, here, let me show you. If you say you're married, then you must answer these parts. If you say you're single, you don't have to answer them. You can just move on to the next section. Also, if you say, where is it? Also, if you say you're married, you must also make sure you answer section D as well. And then you can, but if you say single, you don't have to answer that. Then we're gonna go to next page, which is, okay, right. So now it's asking for personal details. It's asking if you have previously been married or in a common law relationship. If yes, then you must make sure to include those information here. And if no, then you don't have to answer any of these questions. You can just move on to the language section. It's asking for your native language. We're gonna say Turkish. Let me just, where is it? Okay, I'm just gonna say Turkish. Then it's asking if you're able to communicate in English or French. We're gonna say English. Then it's asking if you have ever taken a test from a designating testing agency to assess your proficiency in English or French. I did IELTS before, so I assume that's what they're asking. So I'm just gonna say yes. Then it's asking for your passport information. This is very easy. You just look it up on your passport. It's asking for your passport number. Then it's asking for the country that your passport was issued and the date of issue of your passport and expiry date. These information can be found on your passport. Just look at your passport, then you will be able to find those information. Here we're gonna say Turkey. And then for the date of issue, I'm just gonna say 2019-08, 30th. And for the expiry date, I'm just gonna say 2026, 08. Again, I'm gonna say 29. Then you can see that these questions were automatically filled. It doesn't let me to pick either of these options because I stated that the country that my passport was issued was in Turkey. But if it was in national Israel passport, or if it was issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Taiwan, then it wouldn't be automatically blacked. I had to answer those questions, but because I stated that the country that my passport was issued in was Turkey, then they were automatically, these question number 5 and 6 were automatically answered for me, and they were automatically blacked. And then we move on to the national identity document. It's asking if you have a national identity document. I don't. If you guys have, you just choose yes, then fill out these boxes. If you don't, you just click on no. Then it's asking if you have a green card. I don't. If you have, you just have to click yes and answer these 2 boxes. But if you don't, you just click no. Then we can move on to the contact information. So it's asking for your current mailing address. If you have a PO box, make sure to include it here. If not, just leave it blank. If you're living in an apartment, this is where you want to have the unit number. If you're not living in an apartment and it's a house, you just leave this part blank. You move on to this section. We're going to say it's an apartment. We're going to say it's the unit number is 201. Then it's asking for a street number. We're going to say 34. A street name. We're going to say it's Pharmacy Avenue, Toronto, Canada. And then province, it's Ontario, and postal code, I'm just going to say it. Then it's asking if the residential address is the same as the mailing address. If no, then you must include your current residential address. If yes, then you don't have to fill out these boxes. You can just move on to the next section. Now it's asking for the telephone number. I'm just going to say Canada. Then you have to choose the type of telephone. We're going to say cellular. Then you have to type your cell phone number. Okay, if there's an extension, you want to include it here. If not, you just leave it blank. If you have an alternative telephone number, you just include it here. If not, you leave it blank. If you want to include a fax number, you include it here. If not, you leave it blank. Make sure you include your email address. I'm just gonna say this is my email address. It's got to be an email address that you have access to and you will check regularly so that they can send you stuff. They can send you document, or they can let you know what you should do for your next step after you send your application. Then we can move on to the next section, which is coming into Canada. So for this part right here, it's asking for the date you first entered Canada. So this is the same as the date that you stated earlier in here. Again, as I said, for this section, the personal details, under question number 7, current country or territory of residence, the from date is the first date that you entered Canada. So this date is going to be the same as the first date that you first entered Canada for this section. Oops. For this section, coming into Canada, we're just going to have the same date. And then the place of entry, we're going to say it was YYZ, which is Toronto Pearson Airport, Toronto International Pearson Airport. If you're not sure about the code for your airport, like if you first entered at Calgary International Airport, you want to make sure that is the code. You look up the code on Google. This is the code for Toronto Pearson Airport. And make sure you include the name as well, just to make sure there's no confusion, and make sure you include the right code, okay? Again, this is only for Toronto Pearson Airport. Then it's asking the original purpose for coming to Canada. Well, a study. We came here with a student visa because we wanted to study. Then it's asking if you've ever, the date of your most recent entry to Canada, if it's not the same as the original date. So if you never left Canada after this date, then you can just leave this part blank and move on to the next question. This question right here, if you left Canada after this date multiple times, like if you left Canada after these dates 4 or 5 times, you want to include the date of your most recent entry. So the last time you entered Canada, when was it? You want to include that date here. And where was it? Like the place, which airport was it? And then again, but that's only if you have left Canada. If you haven't left Canada after entering to Canada on this date, you just leave this part blank. You move on to the next question. We're gonna say that we never left Canada after that date, and we're gonna start filling out. We're gonna move on to next question, question 4. It's asking for, it's asking to provide the document number of your most recent visitor record, a study permit, work permit, or temporary resident permit issued to you. So in this case, it's gonna be your the document number is going to be the a study permit. It's going to be found on your study permit. You just include it here. Okay. Again, for the document number, you can find your document number on your study permit. So it's the number on your study permit. Just look at your study permit. That's and then enter the document number here. After you're done answering this question, you can just move on to the next section, which is details of intended work in Canada. So it's asking what type of work permit are you applying for. This one you just say post-graduation work permit. Then for questions 2 to 7, for this question 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you can just leave them blank because this is the first time you're applying for your work permit. So you can just leave these parts blank up till question 7, and then you can just move on to question 8. It's asking if you have been issued a certificate under provincial nominee program. I haven't. If you have, then you click yes, but I haven't, so I'm going to click no. Then it's going to ask for your educations. It's asking if you have, it's asking if you've had any post-secondary education. We're going to say yes. So for the from date, you have to type the date that your program started. In our case, it started in 2020 September. You have to, if your program started in winter, then you have to type the right date. Again, my program started in September, so I'm just going to say it started in September. Then it's asking for the field and level of study. I am going to say the field of study was business. Then it's asking for the school name. I'm going to say it was York University. Then for the location of York University, we're going to say it was in Toronto. Country, Canada. And for the province, Ontario. And for the to date, that's the date that your program ended. I'm going to say 2024. I'm going to say 04. So again, from is the date that your program started, to is the date your program ended. Then you can move on to the next section, which is employment. It's asking for the past 10 years of, it's asking for your employment history for the past 10 years. So if you were working before you come to Canada on the student visa, you must include that here. You gotta start with your most recent, oops. So you have been, let me just, give me a sec. So you want to start with your most recent occupation for section 1. And then if you've been doing multiple jobs, then you can just fill out section 2 and section 3. And if you ran out of space, if you need more space to give more information, you can just attach it in your letter of explanation. And again, you gotta start from the most recent one and type it here. And this is gonna be, and you wanna make sure to include everything. And you start from the most recent one and you go down, all the way down to the oldest history that you have. If you run out of a space, then just include the remaining information in your letter of explanation. And you got to make sure it's only for the past 10 years. You don't need to include anything more than that. And then you can just move on to the next section, which is background information. So this section is for people who are 18 years or older. So for the first section, it's asking about, it's asking if you or your family member have had tuberculosis within the past 2 years, or if they have been in contact with someone who's had tuberculosis. I'm going to say no. If yes, then you have to pick yes. Then it's asking if you have any physical or mental disorder that would require social and or health services other than medication during your stay in Canada? Again, it's no for me. If yes, then you have to pick yes. If you pick yes for any of these questions, you have to make sure you provide explanations for that question here. So let's say that I say yes to this question, then I have to explain about it here. But again, if you say no, then you don't have to explain about anything. For the second question, it's asking if you have ever remained beyond the validity of your status, or if you've ever attended a school without authorization, or if you've ever worked without authorization in Canada. No, I haven't. And then it's asking if you've ever been refused a visa or permit or denied entry or ordered to leave Canada or any other country or territory. No. It's asking for section C, it's asking if you've previously applied to enter or remain in Canada. I'm going to say no. Again, if you say yes to any of these questions, you have to provide explanation here. If you say no, then you don't have to provide any explanation. Then you can move on to question 3. It's asking if you've ever committed a crime or have been arrested or been charged with convicted of any criminal offense in any country or territory. I have not. So if you have to click yes and you have to provide an explanation. If no, then you can just click no, move on to the next section. So for question number 4, it's asking if you've ever served in any military or civil defense, or you've served in a security organization or police force. I have not. If yes, you click yes, provide explanations. Question 5, it's asking if you've ever been a member or associated with any political party or group or organization which has engaged in or advocated violence as a mean to achieve a political or religious objective. I have not. If yes, you click yes. Have you ever, question 6 is asking if you've ever witnessed or participated in an ill treatment of prisoners or civilians. I have not, so I'm going to click no. Then for this question, then for this part, signature, this is the easiest section. It's asking if you consent IRCC to contact you in future. I'm going to say yes. For your signature, you can just type your name. I'm just going to say Music Ross. And then you can just type the date that you were signing this signature. Now, this is, then you can move on. And this is the most important part of the application. You must click on the validate button. If you have missed any section of this application that you were supposed to fill out, but you didn't, then this is going to give you an error. But if you have filled all the sections that you were supposed to fill out, then it's going to give you the barcode, which is what you need. I'm going to click on validate. As you can see, I got an error. So that means I didn't fill out all the information correctly, and I have to fill out this section. When you click on OK, it's going to bring you to the section that you haven't filled. So here, so it's asking again for your employment history. You got to start with your most recent one. We're going to say it's in 2018. The month was 05. It's going to say, we're going to say it was a sales woman. The company I worked for was called Red Rose Clothing, and then the city was Istanbul, and the country was Turkey. And then for the dates, I'm just going to say 2019, 10. Oops. 10. Okay, now you can see that I don't have those red boxes anywhere else in my application. Now if I click on validate, get this message that says validation completed successfully. Please print the entire application and sign and date the last page. And this page contains barcode that facilitates the entry of your application. Again, you don't need to do that. You can just upload it. If you're applying online, you don't need to sign your application. form by hand, you will be asked to provide an electronic signature once you're ready to transmit your document to CIC. I will show you how you can do that later in this video when we are actually trying to submit our application. But for now, all you have to, again, you don't need to print your application and sign or date anything. Don't do this part, okay? You're not applying on paper. This is only for people who are applying on paper. We are applying online, so this part right here is the one that we have to pay attention to. You can just ignore this first part. You can just ignore this. This is what you can pay attention. You will need to sign your application once you're uploading the document and once you're sending it to IRCC from your account. I will show you that later in this video, but for now, we can just click on OK. After we see this validation completed successfully, we can just press on OK. Now we get the barcode. Okay, this is what we want. This is what we've been looking for. This is very important. You must have this. If you don't get this, if you press on validate and as you saw, when you get an error, it's not going to give you this barcode. So, but if you have done this application 100%, if you have answered all the questions that you were supposed to answer, then when you press on validate, when you press on this button, you're going to get this barcode that we want. And now that you fill the application, we can just you can just make sure you save it. Okay, make sure you save this. Okay, we need this, and then you can just save it, and then make sure you save it, right?